So this is Jane Wright with a treatment called sensory overload. It's the very first autonomic dysfunction that I found. And what I found originally was that it was very, 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 very prevalent in people. And what it objectively ends up being is a source of great toxicity to the organism, but particularly the upper part of the organism gets polluted first, and that includes the brain. And so often it is part of a cyclic phenomena where the brain is injured, oftentimes, early on in life, concussion, contusion, some kind of vascular event that the person's getting by with. They get overwhelmed, but they get headaches or some kind of toxic phenomena, but they're getting by. But as soon as you start to redo that concussion, try to treat that contusion, you notice that you absolutely have to have the person get themselves out of this autonomic dysfunction every day. Otherwise, the poison in the brain just gets too much for them. And so the body ends up using the fibers of the sympathetic nervous system at a time when it normally doesn't. Usually that's just for emergencies. And the upshot of that is that it makes the large bowel, of where there are 7 what I call colon valves or sphincters, it makes them all become atonic. They lose their tone. And in that atonicness, a great deal of pollution occurs into the brain. Why? Because the small intestine, is the first part of the intestine, is an absorptive mechanism. It doesn't have the ability to discern what is going to be absorbed. It will just absorb. I mean, it might make determination for different things in different places, but it's absorptive. So what happens is that the colon valves and sphincters misfunction, and we get a lot of reflux back from the large bowel into the small bowel, for instance. And that small bowel is hardwired. The brain doesn't like to be without food or oxygen for any length of time at all. So it's hardwired to bring the nutrient to the brain first. But if there's this reflux and the poisonous material from the large bowel has gotten back into the small intestine, where absorption is the only choice, then the toxicity absorbs into the brain, not just a little, but a lot, very steadily. And so that's what the actual awfulness of the condition is. It's triggered by sensory excesses for you, not for anybody else. So this is a person who might only be able to go to a museum for an hour without becoming really, really tragically fried. Or, the sound of somebody's boombox next door can trigger you, or, the sound of a lot of children screaming. Sensory overload is something that can happen even in good things. Even when you're having a wonderful piece of music, you're at a point where you just can't take in another blasted thing. And so, this won't be for everyone right now, this treatment that I'm about to go over, because there's 7 steps to it. And I'm only showing right now the first 3 that I would have already completed all 7 with my patients. So later on, I'll manage to get it on YouTube so that anybody can do this. But for right now, this will be just for my patients. There's 3 centers. One goes from mid-eye to mid-eye on the forehead. You have to grasp around the edges of these centers. You can't just put your hand over them. You have to grasp. So mid-eye to mid-eye on the forehead. There's a big sphere there. You place your other hand somewhere, doesn't matter where, but you imagine the whole body underneath this other hand. And then you're going to make an induction, which is pulling straight off to the right, just within the range that the skin on the scalp and the forehead can be manipulated. So I'm not sliding my hand over that point. I'm just moving within that tether, that the anchoring my fingers in the skin of the forehead is allowing. So I do that 15 times off to the right. And then the most important thing is the holding. I don't let go of either spot because I've done the induction, and now the holding is where the treatment takes place. So I just don't let go for 45 seconds after that. And those of you who are sensitive, you feel this kind of moving around thing going on. That lasts usually about 45 seconds. So that's the first step. The second step is a 1/2 body inch sphere. Now the tip of one's index finger is a 1/2 body inch. And so what you do is you place that tip of one index finger on the nose. You grasp it with the other hand. It doesn't matter which hand, by the way. You grasp it. And the induction you're going to do this time is pushing in and bouncing back. And you do that 15 times. And then therapeutically, the improvement takes place in the holding, in the resting. So you don't move either hand until 45 seconds has elapsed. And then the third and final stage of this is also a 1/2 body inch sphere on the upper lip. So you place a finger, the index finger, which is a 1/2 body inch across. You encircle it, you grasp it with your other hand, take this away, put it on the body somewhere and imagine the whole body underneath it. And the induction in this case is up and down, up and down, up and down. 15 times. And then holding for 45 seconds. Now these 3 steps can be done effectively only with somebody who has had a preliminary treatment done, which is a 7-step cycle. So I'm giving this mainly for the people that I've already worked with, my patients, to do first thing in the morning, anytime you have a nap, anytime you suddenly feel tired when you weren't before, you probably went back into sensory overload. And as I said, any of the senses can trigger it off. The longer you're in that state, the more toxic your poor brain is forced to be. And so you get to the point when you engage with this kind of thing, you can tell when suddenly you became more toxic because the fatigue, it's unmistakable. So, you really start to feel not good inside fairly quickly. It doesn't take long. So that's sensory overload. And you should do that every morning after you get up. If you take a nap, do it again. And I'll add the other parts for those of you who haven't been treated by me at another time. Thanks.